Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Dwarf Fortress. So, first things first, I want to apologize for my brief hiatus for about a week or so. By the time this video goes up, I think. I was not feeling well at all. It was, hacking, coughing, and just generally nastiness that I was not prepared to inflict upon you guys. So, unfortunately, that meant videos had to go on a bit of a break, but I'm back. Sorry, not 100% well, but well enough that I can at least start getting to work on some of this. So, let's actually get to work. So, last episode, I mentioned that I was going to explain how to start managing these dwarves in an intelligent manner. And really, upon thinking about it, there's more than one way to do this, and I'm going to show you a few different ways that you can do it, and then basically leave it up to you guys which one you think is best. Personally, I use all three. It depends on the type of game I want to play, how micromanagey I'm feeling that day, and all that. So the first one I want to touch on, because it is absolutely the simplest, and if you are struggling with Dwarf Fortress, this might help you in a way that it would allow you to take your mind off of what else you're working on, or off of micromanaging the dwarves, and focus more on learning the game before you go and learn how to micromanage your dwarves. However, I do recommend that you learn how to micromanage your dwarves because it's a very powerful skill to have. But anyway, what I'm talking about here is, in fact, if I can get my DF Hack window up here, a tool in DF Hack called Auto Labor. So if we type this in, Auto Labor. All right, Auto Labor does exactly what it sounds like it does. It automatically assigns dwarves to certain jobs. Now, I'm not going to turn this on because I'm not planning on using this in this series. But basically, you type in Auto Labor 1, which will activate it. There are a bunch of other commands that you can use to set limits on certain jobs, make sure that there's always a dwarf assigned to certain jobs, etc., etc. It's a fairly handy tool. I don't use it all that often because I find that it takes too much control away from me. But it is there if you want to use it. One other thing I wanted to just mention, because I just remembered this. If things look a little different, that's because I've had to change the tile set I was using. The one I was using did not have a proper graphic assigned to wheelbarrows, and they were really hard to pick out among everything else. I don't think I actually have any wheelbarrows in this fort. I've been playing in another fort I have in another save. But yeah, so there's no wheelbarrow, so I changed it over to what is this one? This one is the same tile set, or at least the same tile set name, but just with a dash Masterwork next to it. So that's why things look a little different. Anyway, back to what I was saying before. So the other way that we can do it, that we can handle the various dwarves and their skills and tasks and whatnot, is, well, actually, there's two ways that we can do it, and both of them are through Dwarf Therapist. Now, the first thing you can do is you can create an optimization plan. Now this is fairly time intensive, so I'm not going to go and create a whole new one here, but I have used this before, and it's really not all that hard. So first you give your plan a name, and we're just going to call this one tutorial plan. Maximum jobs per dwarf. This is how many jobs I mean, it's fairly self-explanatory, but I'm going to go through each one. This is how many jobs each dwarf can have. I don't like them to have too many, because normally you have way more dwarves than you need to anyway. So I like to set that at around 8, 9, or 10, depending on how many dwarves I have. Auto-assign haulers, as it says on the tin, attempts to automatically assign haulers after optimization. Basically, what this means is that if, after all the jobs are assigned, if a dwarf has less than 50% of the maximum job, so in this case it'd be if a dwarf has 4 or less jobs, they would also be assigned as a hauler. And you can set this to, wherever. 50% is not a bad one, though depending on the type of plan you're building, maybe 100% is what you want if you want to create a group of very specialized dwarves, but maybe the optimizer isn't the best way to do that. Anyways, the percent total jobs. This is a percentage total. Oh yeah, right. Sorry. This is basically, it determines how many total jobs there are between all the different, between how many dwarves you have, between how many jobs per dwarf you've assigned, so on and so forth. And this is kind of how its target percentage, if you will. And then all you do is you add the jobs, or you can assign remaining 63 jobs, and that'll go ahead and add them all. And then you have this role, which determines which dwarf will work that job. Pardon me again. Because it will basically look at a dwarf's role and pick the best one for that job. Which is, it's fairly intelligent, so you generally don't have to change these unless maybe you've created a custom role. Then you have priority. Basically, this is how important it is that this job gets assigned. So for instance, alchemy, probably not all that important, so we can set that to a 0.01, for instance, and that'll make sure that it doesn't waste any workers by trying to assign too many to alchemy. And you can go on and, do that for every job that you have here. So say, for instance, armor smithing is super important to me. I can set that to 2. Oops. Can I set that to 2? Okay, sorry. 1.0 is the maximum. So what I would probably do is actually set the priority of everything else in here down to about half, and then I could bring up and push down the ones that I'd want. Ratio is basically, out of all your population, how many are going to do it. So for instance, if I, on archaeology, bump the ratio up, I said up, you would see that now we have 5 dwarves working this because we have a 1.10 ratio. And you can just keep bumping that up, and we have 6 dwarves doing it now, or if it's not really all that important, you can bump it down, so now you only have 1 dwarf doing it. But this is basically, this will expand as your fort grows. So, I mean, if you only want 1 dwarf doing a job, then it's probably better just to exclude that job from the optimizer and set it manually. However, if you just want a very small percentage of your fort working on a specific job, that's where the optimizer is important. And then you can exclude active military, which is a good idea. Exclude squads, which basically won't assign any jobs to dwarves that are in squads, which is basically the way the military works. We'll go over that probably in the next episode, I would guess, at this point. Then you can also exclude nobles, so you don't want your nobles to be doing any work. I usually turn that on. And then exclude hospitalized, so if a dwarf has had its arms ripped off, then they won't be expected to do any work. And then that's basically how this works. And then you set it up the way you want. You can run the optimization plan. As I said, I'm not going to go through and set up a whole one here because I generally don't like this thing either. It's, again, 90% of the time I want very fine-tuned control over my dwarves. I want to make sure that they're doing exactly what I want them to do and no more. And for the most part, you don't want a whole bunch of dwarves doing blacksmithing, armoring, weaponsmithing, gem cutting, gem setting, all the skillful tasks. You want dwarves that are doing, you want a couple of dwarves that are focused on that one task, and doing it exceptionally well, and the rest of the dwarves are supporting that dwarf. And to that end, we have these custom professions. Now, these are ones that I've made. These don't come preloaded in Dwarf Therapist or anything like that. So, for instance, the first one that we have is called, actually that should be slave, not slaves. And this is basically a designation I give to every dwarf that is not, that their skills are not particularly useful to my fort at the time. So basically what this means is if we get a expert cheese maker, well, that's not really all that useful. So they become a slave. If I get an expert, pump operator, again, not really all that useful, you're a slave. And the slaves, they have all the hauling turned on, as well as all of the, or at least most of the skills that do not require, training to be good at. So for instance, to butcher an animal, you really don't need to be skilled at it. Being skilled at it just makes the job quicker. Same with architecture. There's no bonus to skill there that affects the quality of the item, whereas, for instance, weaponsmithing, you do need to be good at that to make good quality weapons. So I'm not going to go through each and every single one that I've got checked off here. If you would like to copy it, I'm going to just do a quick scroll through of what I've got selected, and then you can pause the video and take a look. So I'm actually going to make that nice and big so you guys can see as much as possible on the screen at one time. So there we go. So hopefully that's what you guys, that'll give you guys enough of an idea as to what I have set as a slave profession if you wish to copy it for your own game. Then we have nobles, which is basically just a designation that gives them no job. You have haulers, which actually this is an interesting one. I'm going to pull this one up. Now I have this one set to apply as a mask. And what this means is that if I assign, actually let me close this for a second. Let me find a good candidate for a slave. What are you? You're a good engineer. So we're not going to turn you into something. A peasant, here we go. This is a pretty good candidate for for slavery. So what we do is we right click on him, custom professions, slave. And that will set all of his, skills based on the ones that I have set up in that role. Now, if we go down to say this guy down here, we're gonna, what is he? He is a leather worker. Okay, he's actually a pretty good leather worker. So that's all we want him to do is leather working. But say, for instance, that we didn't really have all that much leather working that we wanted to do, but we also wanted him to use his spare time to haul. So what we do, I guess it's a her, is we right-click, custom professions, there we go, hauler. Now, as you can see, she's still got leather working selected, but if I scroll over, she's got all of her hauling set up now as well. And basically, the reason for that is this hauler profession is set up as a mask. And what that means is it will not remove their currently assigned jobs. It will just add to them. And this is basically just all the hauling labors turned on. So that if I have, say, for instance, a dwarf that I'm using as a, expert carpenter, well, I don't have a lot of, I don't have a lot of use for carpenters. So I set them as a carpenter, but they can also do some hauling, so they're not just sitting around doing nothing 99.9% of the time. And I have a couple others that I've set up in my other games. Gem crafters, farmers. Farmers are pretty self-explanatory. They have farming and food hauling turned on. Nothing else. Doctor Who's. They're doctors. I'm a Whovian, so I thought that was funny at the time. I also have a horrible sense of humor, which I'm sure you guys have realized by this point. Anyways, so what we basically need to do, because as I mentioned in a comment on one of my other videos, after the major migration comes in, I do basically an entire fortress reset and start from scratch. Basically assigning everybody to the important jobs that I want first, and then everybody who hasn't been assigned to a job gets marked off as a slave. So the first thing we're going to do for that is select all, right-click, clear all labors. And then we want to make sure that we have some miners, and we want to we want all those miners turned back on, and we don't want them doing anything other than mining. So that's how they're going to get left. And remember, I have this set to sort by role rating. So, pardon me again. So by clicking on each one of these column headers, it'll show me the best dwarves for the job. So we want a bunch of miners. We do want a decent carpenter. This Erdrim could potentially be it. She's a peasant. Then we have Ural, who is a mechanic. But what I'm looking at here is this caste, because the caste determines their guild, essentially, in Masterwork. So, for instance, Dwarf, they have no guild. Dwarf, no guild. No guild, no guild. Come on, where's one with it? Yeah, here we go. Caste, Engineers Guild. So this guy is decent at engineering type stuff. So if I hover over him, down here, it pops up this. And if you look at the very bottom of that pop-up window, you'll see that he's good at engineering, siege operatings, mechanic, machine operators, research, and inventing. So, our best carpenter is probably Erdrim. Is she good at anything else? Well, let's take a quick look over here. And you can see their role rating for, I believe by default it's the top 10 that they're decent at. And for the looks of things, she would actually make a fairly decent soldier. Axe Dwarf, Hammer Dwarf is all at around 83-82%, which isn't bad. But now this is going to sound incredibly sexist, and I apologize for that, but I will explain why in a minute. She's not going to be a part of our military, at least not our first pick of the military, because she's female. Now, I'm not trying to make any kind of social statement here, bear with me. There's a reason why you don't want your females to be soldiers, and it's basically because when they have kids, the kids will follow them into battle, and if their kids get killed, it'll set them into a depression, and you don't want depressed soldiers because they're horrible at their jobs. So, as I said, it's nothing, I'm not saying anything, about gender lines or whatever, it's just a game mechanic. Anyway, carrying on. So she's going to be a carpenter, and because, as I said before, I really don't have all that much use for carpenters, I'm going to set her as a hauler. Alright, crossbow making, is she decent at that as well? Not really. We have a level 7 crossbow maker, which, again, not really all that useful, but we will want to make some crossbows in the future, so you can be a crossbow maker and a hauler. Woodcutter, we do want somebody to do that, and that's going to be their only job. Let's just make sure I'm not kind of setting people I shouldn't be at this. Yeah, see, this guy's a mechanic skill dwarf, so we maybe don't want to... Oh, wait, sorry, not mechanic, merchant. He's a merchant skilled dwarf, which is slightly different because you really only need one decent merchant skilled dwarf. So it doesn't really matter. We'll leave him there because I think we have a few, actually. Let's go and do cast and take a look. Merchant skilled. Yeah, we have 2 merchant skilled dwarves. So one of these will probably become our... actually, is one of these already set to our broker? Let me take a look. And who's our broker? Naglak. We might want to change that. We shall see. The problem is neither of these people have skills in brokering, so it's kind of not so great to have them doing it. Anyways, masonry. We definitely want a couple of masons. So Urir is going to be our mason again. Let me see. You are probably, yeah, you're a mason skill dwarf. So that, and if we look here, it gives him a good mining boost, which, how good are you at mining? 99.77. It's not bad, but we already have some people doing it. And I want you to be a mason, and you are going to do nothing else. I like to have 2 masons because I do a lot of stonework, and as I go further on, I will be getting more and more masons, really. Alright, now we want somebody to do some stone detailing. Now we have Inef. She's a shearer, so that's her best one, but she's also a pretty decent stone and rune engraver. And not really much else, so that's what she's going to do. We already have somebody down here with a skill of 6, and it kind of sucks to not be able to use them, but because they're already a mason, I really don't want to overload them. And it's the type of thing where stone detailing eventually becomes something in my dwarf that everybody has assigned, except for when I'm doing engravings, because smoothing stone, which is what a stone detailer can do, doesn't really require skill. Skill just makes the job go faster. However, carving engravings into stone uses that same skill, and it does matter how good their skill is. So I like to train up one person into a really good stone detailer, and then everybody gets it set, or at least all the slaves get it set, except for when I'm doing engraving, and then I unset it on everybody except for that one person. So let's see. Animal training, I don't care about. Animal care, I don't care about. Hunting, trapping, small animal dissection, none of that I care about. Diagnostics, sorry. Let me see. We have a healer skill dwarf, but they're also our farmer. But we have some other decent farmers, so we're probably going to repurpose her. As much as it sucks to lose a level 7 farmer, we're doing pretty okay on food right now. So we're going to set her as a doctor. And she's going to have everything turned on, and that's basically going to be her only job. Right now, she's not really going to have a place to work, but we'll deal with that as we go. Now, farming. As I said, we want a couple of decent farmers, and we have 2 Farmers Guild dwarves here. So we're going to set it on for both of them. And we have a level 7, so it's not like we're going right back down to 0. It would be nice if we could kind of shift that skill over, but that's not how the game works. Alright, dyeing, soap making, wood burning, we have no need for any of this right now. Milking, we have that's milling, sorry. We have a need for. Let me see. Brewing, that is another one that we definitely want to have somebody doing. Let me see, who's going to be a decent brewer for us? You could. Oh, wow, you're not very good at it, though. Let's see. Do we want to have one of our farmers pull double duty? Because we're not playing with harder farming, I will. If you are playing with harder farming, don't do this, because your farmers have enough work on their hands as is. But for here, this will work just fine. We'll have the same person doing a little bit of farming, brewing, and cooking. Plant gathering, plant processing, cheese making, milking. We definitely want that turned on. Though I think, actually, is that a job that my slaves can do? Milking. Yeah, okay, never mind. We don't need somebody to do milking. I think I just turned a job on for somebody here. There we go. Cooking, pressing, beekeeping. All right, fishing. We definitely want to have a few fisher dwarves doing their thing. So you're a smith, so you're not going to be fishing because we have way better uses for your skills. You're a mason's guild, and you've already had your masonry job set, so not you. You're just a dwarf, so congratulations, you're now also a fisher dwarf. You're not very good at it, but we want to make sure we have enough food. Fish cleaning, fish dissection, none of that matters. Weaponsmithing, here we go. Now this is where things start to get a little bit interesting. So we only have, from the looks of things, we only have one smith guild. However, we do have somebody here, I forgot about her, or him, Munsong, who is a decent weaponsmith, blacksmith, and metal crafter. And we're going to turn those all on for him. Even though he's not a smith guild dwarf, we can change that later, and that extra 6 points for things like smithing, where it's costing you valuable resources to train, is super important. So then we're going to go over to Uthgar, and we're going to turn on armoring for her, and she can be our apprentice armorer. Now we want somebody who's decent at some gem cutting stuff as well, and we have a jeweler's guild jeweler's guild dwarf right here. So we're going to set them as a gem crafter. And then we have leatherworking. We definitely want somebody onto that, but again, we don't do a lot of leatherworking. So congratulations, you're also going to be set to a hauler. What else we got? We have wood crafting. We're not doing any of that right now. Stone crafting we are, so we're going to turn that on for Lish, which is also a Mason's Guild dwarf. Again, she's just particularly good at it. Pardon me. Now you'll notice that I'm probably, oops, she's also set to a Mason, so we actually maybe don't want that. Well, then again, how much stone crafting do we actually do? Not a lot. So we'll turn that on. Now you notice that I'm not really paying a ton of attention to most of the guilds, and that's because it's something that you can change later on. Now, if you get somebody who's already in the guild you want, it's really not all that bad to, get the person in the guild doing what you want. But it's also really not that big of a deal if somebody you have is better suited to the job than your guild dwarf. Normally, your guild dwarfs will be at like 99% efficiency or roll rating for any one job, but not necessarily always. So it's just something to keep in mind. Bone carving, we are actually doing a bit of that, so let's get somebody doing that. Let's see, what are you? Ungos, you're our bookkeeper. You're also a crafts dwarfs guild. We'll probably want to get a different bookkeeper then, but for right now, we'll turn that on, and I will change that later. Because we're already started, I've done nothing but fool around in Dwarf Therapist this episode, and we're already nearing the end of the episode, so we're just going to kind of try to hurry this along. So who else do we have? We definitely need somebody to do mechanics works. And now here's kind of where we run into a little bit of an issue, because this Munsong is a really good mechanic, but also a really good weaponsmith, blacksmith, and metal crafting, and we don't want him pulling double duty. Unfortunately, it seems like he might be our only engineering guild dwarf. So right now, we are going to stick with Earl doing the mechanics, even though he's not in that particular cast. The one person we do have, we need elsewhere. Alright, so after we've done that, we commit. And then what we do to find all the dwarves that we haven't given jobs is we group by, where is it? Job, total assigned labors. And we have a bunch of dwarves with 0 assigned labors. So we select them all, right click, custom profession, slave, and all of those have been set. And then we have these 1 profession dwarves, and we just take a quick look at them to make sure we haven't forgotten to set anybody as a hauler. So you're a miner, so we don't want you doing that. You're a bone carver. We don't do a ton of bone carving. Oh wait, hold on. You're also our craft store, so we're going to leave you for our bookkeeper. So we're going to leave you for now, but we are going to have to assign somebody else to that position. You're a farmer, so we're actually going to set you as a farmer. You are a fisher, so that's all fine there. Same with armoring, mining, Stone detailing, we are going to set you as a hauler because we don't do a lot of that. Oh, wait, sorry, that's masonry. That was not what I wanted to do then. Turn all that off. Vutok, what are you? You are a fisher, so we're going to keep you there. And you're the stone detailer. You're the one that we want to set as a hauler as well. And then the rest of them are generally fine. So we're going to commit that. And there we go. Our dwarf has our fortress has more or less been repurposed. Oops, where's my game? There it is. The one thing we want to do is we want to find a new bookkeeper so that we're not completely wasting our Craftsdwarf guild dwarf. So let's go ahead to nothing and sort by broker. And here we go. We have, now this is something that's really handy. I can look up here and see that this dwarf, this Tooth, whatever, is a slave, which means that she really hasn't been given a better job to do at the moment. But as we can see, she makes a really good broker. So what we're going to do is we're going to right-click, Custom Profession, Noble, and that'll remove all of her jobs. So we're going to commit that, or his jobs, I should say. And then we're going to try to find this guy, Ustooth. Let's see here. Go in here. Oops, I pressed the wrong button. Where's my... There it is. We want to replace this guy. Replace. There we go. Search Ustooth Shinova. Is that guy there? Yeah, he's been set as a noble. So that'll be him. And then we just need to do one more thing. And that is come down here and reassign these. So assign table to... Nope. Assign table to Ustooths. And assign the chair to Ustooths as well. And we'll assign this bed as well. There we go. Now if we go back into our nobles, we'll just make sure that the bookkeeper is still set at the highest precision, which he is. Wait, I said broker, didn't I? I'm an idiot. I am an idiot. Yeah, I said broker. Whoops. All right, well, all the same. Ustooth, you can be a broker. I can't believe I did that. That was so dumb. Okay, search. Ustooth. You can... Nope. You can be a broker. But our bookkeeper, let's try that again, shall we? Okay, here we go. Bromek, he is a hauler. But what else has he been set to do? Bromek. He is our crossbow maker. Well, he could probably do bookkeeping in that on the side. Actually, Ustooth is a pretty good bookkeeper as well as a broker. So because I kind of wish I could go back and, oh yeah, you know, I meant to do that because I'm so intelligent and whatnot. No, that was just a dumb mistake on my part. But I'm going to leave him in that position because he's good at both. And really, we can interrupt our bookkeeper for a few moments when the trade caravans come to visit. So I think that's kind of how we're gonna stay. And now Ongos is a back to being a regular dwarf who is also our Ongos. You're our bone carver, and we're just gonna set you as a hauler as well because we really don't do all that much bone carving. All right, and there we go. So that is the 3 methods that you can use to micromanage your fort, and the one that I personally prefer to use, which is also perhaps the most labor intensive. But the results are just so much better than relying on the automated systems to do it for you. If you rely on the automated systems, it removes a lot of the micromanagement from the game, but it also removes a lot of your control, and it removes a lot of your ability to specialize and select the specific dwarves that you want to be doing specific jobs. And Dwarf Therapist makes it pretty easy to handle either way. So, sorry guys, a a completely non-gameplay episode, but it at least covers how to handle your dwarves after that first big migration wave. And I really hope that you guys can use this and, you know, make your dwarves better, or make your fortress better, without having to go through the nightmare of having to go through and click off every single one of these. That's what I did for the longest time, and it is absolutely maddening. Like, it's the thing that will, when you get like 60, 90, 100, 200 dwarves, trying to do all this manually is a right royal pain. Using the custom professions makes it a lot easier, trust me. So thank you guys very much for joining me for this episode. Again, sorry for the lack of gameplay, but this will put us in a really good position to move forward from here. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I will do my very best to answer every single one of them. If you found this helpful, please leave me a like. It's very helpful, and it makes me feel awesome to see the likes. I also want to thank everybody who has made these videos such a success so far for my channel. Seeing the amount of views that I've been getting on these videos lately has just been absolutely amazing, and I just want to thank every single one of you. So thank you very much for joining me, and so long.